All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Hannah Brown with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management, and today we have a couple of speakers lined up to discuss some important safety and preparedness tips for the upcoming winter storm Izzy that it's expected to impact our area this weekend. So we will start with Division Chief Robert Graham with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management. And then we'll hear from Deputy Chief Stephen Brochu from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Dr. John Studnick, Deputy Director of Mecklenburg EMS Agency, and Charlie Jones, the Deputy Street Superintendent with Charlotte Department of Transportation. And then we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Again, we were looking forward to a great holiday weekend, but we've got some weather moving in, and it's been given a name. It's tropical or winter storm Izzy. CMMO is and has been coordinating with our partners across the county, the state, and also our volunteer organizations active in disasters, or our VOADs, including the American Red Cross, who I just got off the phone with. And we'll be doing that. We've been doing it all week, and we'll be doing it throughout the weekend and into next week. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management is activating the County Emergency Operations Center on Saturday night, and we'll do that throughout the storm until conditions get better. Preparedness. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management Office is encouraging all residents to prepare for the winter storm. There is a significant potential for ice in this storm, with this storm, so prepare to have enough essential supplies for at least 72 hours for your family and pets. Stay off the roads. The roads really need to be for essential personnel, and that includes our doctors, our nurses, our folks with utilities, Charlotte Water, Duke Energy, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics. When you're on the roads and folks have accidents that are not part of the essential services, it really creates problems for our ability to get things done within the city and county. Buy what you need, but don't panic buy. Don't overbuy. We all know that we are currently seeing supply chain shortages throughout the county and the country. So please do us a favor and do your fellow Mecklenburg residents a favor by buying what you need, because next week it's going to take some time to get all those wonderful things that we like to purchase back on the shelves. Take care of your neighbors. Check on the neighbors that might be living alone, or if you see a tree down and you know that they're elderly, please check on them and make sure they're okay. Talk with your family and make a plan. Know where your children are, know where your parents are going to be, know your wives and husbands and significant others are going to be. And make sure that you have flashlights, batteries, battery-operated radios, medical supplies, non-perishable foods, and a fully charged cell phone. And a lot of folks always forget that part, fully charged cell phone. If you're not from here and you're from a northern area of the country that has lots of plows and different weather conditions, do understand that Southerners, we don't have some of those things, but also our weather is different. And so ice is much different than snow. Gather supplies before the winter weather begins, because travel may be difficult. And we encourage everybody to sign up for CharMec alerts. We send a lot of messages through CharMec alerts that are important for you to know. And so you can go to charmecalerts.org to do that. And a lot of the emergency management messages will come out through that system. This is important. My parents almost died from carbon monoxide after following a hurricane from generator use. And we're lucky that they didn't. And we don't want anybody to pass away after the storm from generators. So make sure that you keep generators at least 20 feet away from your home. Be careful if you're filling generators, you want the generator to be cold. But also do not use other alternative heating sources that are not meant to be used. And that includes charcoal grills, gas cooking appliances, camp stoves, turkey fryers, drywall heaters. Those are not meant to keep you warm after a storm. They're meant for temporary use. If you are using the space heaters and kerosene heaters, do not leave them unattended, especially when you're sleeping. Or don't leave them on when you're sleeping. We would prefer you to cut them down and make sure you have a nice warm blanket or sleeping bag. If you must use power tools, make sure you know how to do it safely. We always have a lot of accidents after when trees go down. We had the weekend warriors that bought the chainsaw right before the storm that had never actually used it. So please know what you're doing when you're operating those types of tools, and know your limitations. Stay away from all down lines. This is an important one. If you think that you know if a line is dead or live, you don't. So just treat it like a live line and stay away from it. We'll get through this, and our community will return to a regular work week next week, although we're still dealing with COVID. But we will get through this, and this is really the beginning. There's a weather pattern, so we can expect that we may have a few additional storms after this as we go through this weather pattern. But we are closely monitoring all those situations, and our job really in emergency management is to see what's coming at us, fill those gaps, and constantly communicate. And we communicate with around 1,000 folks within Mecklenburg County. So I'll end there, but I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Deputy Chief Stephen Brochu, who I've known for a number of years and does just a fantastic job. He's dressed a little bit better than I am today, but thank you, and we'll get through this. Deputy Chief Brochu.
Thank you, Chief Graham. Good afternoon, everybody. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has a commitment providing great service to our citizens, and this will not change as a result of winter weather. We are, however, asking that our community keep in mind some of the points, and I'd like to point them out regards to the storm. First off, 911 should really only be used for emergencies. Utility outages, downed trees, as well as other weather-related incidents or conditions are being monitored already by city and county services. With that, we'd like to keep 911 open as much as possible for emergencies. Expect there may be an increased response time for CMPD officers. They have to navigate the roadways just like everyone else does, and will do with care and due caution, so it may take a little more time perhaps for them to respond. Please limit your travel to absolute travel or whatever's necessary. If you must drive, we ask you slow down. We ask you to increase your following distance as well as your stopping distance, anticipating that your vehicle will behave differently on the icy or snowy roads. Avoid distractions such as cell phones and other things inside your vehicle. And then very, very important, and I can't emphasize this enough, please watch for first responders working in and around roadways as you travel by. There'll also be utility workers and others that are trying to make the community safe. They need as much distance as possible, and it's up to all of us to keep their environment safe. We all have equity there, so please make sure that you are attentive there. Our CMPD Command Center will be open for all police operations. We'll start that on Sunday and close that as soon as we feel necessary and our operations conclude throughout the storm. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Studnek with Medic to give their update. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. And hope we all have a safe weekend where we're able to stay inside, enjoy some time with friends or families in a safe manner. The impending weather that we have coming towards us exacerbates the issues that Medic has been facing over the short term, the last 4 to 6 weeks, and then the long term over the course of a pandemic. We've been facing challenges for a while, and ice storm will compound the issues that the community faces as it relates to receiving emergency health care within our community. The hospitals are still full. The emergency departments are still crowded, and we are still transporting upwards of 30 COVID-positive patients a day. And so when you add an ice storm on top of this, it'll exacerbate the situation. Some of the things we look for during an ice event like this are increased motor vehicle collisions, and you can help us and all of our first responders by staying off the roads and only traveling for essential business. We see an increased incidence of slips, trips, and falls where we have sprains or potentially broken arms or legs, and that's because ice is difficult to walk on and increases your chance of slipping and falling. And so again, I'd ask that you stay inside and limit your movement off of sidewalks that have not been cleared or roadways that are still icy. You can prevent injury, and injury prevention this weekend is very important given the status of the healthcare system we find ourselves in. And then finally, we also see an increased incidence in responses for chest pain or exacerbation of shortness of breath. And that's because folks see snow or ice on their driveways and sidewalks and want to get outside and get it cleared. And while clearing your sidewalk or your driveway is useful and good, pace yourself, right? It's going to be cold outside. You're going to be working in difficult conditions. Take your time. Take frequent breaks. Make sure you drink water and rest appropriately so you don't overexert yourself and end up in a situation where you might have to call medic. Over the course of this ICE event, we will be operating the triage processes in our call center that we've put in place for our COVID response. If you have a life-threatening emergency such as shortness of breath or chest pain, you'll receive an immediate response and great clinical care from our teams. However, if you present to the call center with very low acuity symptoms, you'll be offered an opportunity to talk to a nurse advice line to triage you to home care or other types of care. If you have low acuity symptoms and need an ambulance transport, that ambulance may take up to 60 minutes to arrive at your location. And given the icy conditions that we have present, those responses may be extended somewhat based off of that, given other increases in call volume. So make sure that you're prepared at home. For our medically fragile folks in this community, folks with pre-existing conditions, or those that care for those types of individuals, please make sure you have enough medication on hand to last you through the week, just in case. Please make sure that if you're on home oxygen, you have enough oxygen or your oxygen concentrator is functional. Medic does not have spare oxygen that we can leave behind at houses. And if you are dependent on any type of medical technology, make sure that you have backup power sources or understand through the manufacturer or your healthcare provider how to operate that equipment in an emergency. We're unable to troubleshoot technology related to medical issues, specifically during an ice event or a storm. So please make sure you make those preparations in advance. Use 911 appropriately, as has been said. Dial 911 for true medical emergencies, and we will be there. If you're unsure, our communication center will be able to guide you to the right type of care. And lastly, even though we're talking mostly about an ice storm, two quick notes about COVID. If you have COVID concerns during the ice storm, we do not have COVID tests on the ambulance, nor is an emergency department the most appropriate place to get tested for COVID. So please don't call us for just testing-related issues. And finally, if you have low acuity symptoms related to COVID, contact your healthcare provider, your primary care physician, before reaching out to an ambulance or 911. And so we'll all have a safe weekend, and we'll enjoy some time inside with friends and family safely if able, and we'll navigate this storm. And I'm going to pass us over to Charles Jones from CDOT. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stodnick. Charles Jones with the Charlotte Department of Transportation to give a little bit of an update on our preparations for this Winter Storm Izzy, as it's being called. Yesterday and today, street maintenance crews have been applying salt brine to city streets. This morning, the North Carolina Department of Transportation, who we're working closely with, began brining their routes throughout the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. Beginning Saturday evening, street maintenance crews will come in and begin plowing and salting operations on city streets. NCDOT personnel will also be working Saturday evening into Sunday. Our goal is to have streets passable within 48 hours of the storm, of the end of the storm, but with the weather conditions we're seeing, we think that may occur sooner. I'll reiterate the points that my colleagues have made. Please stay off the roads if you don't need to be out. Our crews need room to work with our plow trucks. When we're having to move around cars that have run off the road or stalled cars, it slows us down, prevents us from being able to clear the roads. If you do have to get out, please make sure there's no snow and ice accumulated on your vehicle. Those things can come off and hit other cars and create even more issues. Our staff will be working 12-hour shifts beginning Sunday night and going into Monday until the storm is done. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Corey for any questions from the media.